students, welcome to my YouTube channel Pharmacy Lessons Made Easy. The topic for today's video is related to the important questions and tips which are related to physical pharmaceutics to practical. So if we talk about the main intention of this is to facilitate you for self-learning, and the entire information for each and every practical which is mentioned as per PCI syllabus is being told by me one by one for each and every practical. So stay focused. Other than this, you have to focus on the various aspects which are related with pre-formulation and dispersion dosage forms as well. You have to specially emphasize yourself on concepts, principles, and applications of each and every experiment. And as a teacher, I would recommend you to do the model calculations for each experiment. This will definitely help you in processing and analyzing the raw data independent of anyone else. So you will become independent in analyzing the raw data, whatever is given to you. So do practice that model calculation. And whatever questions that I'll be telling you is for your guidance purpose so that you can improvise your performance. So let's start with each and every practical. As per PCI syllabus, the first practical in that is determination of particle size distribution using sieving method. So if I talk about the questions probably which can be asked to you in your Viva Voce exam, is mention the method which is or methods which are available by which you can determine the particle size distribution of a powder. Second thing is, what is the difference between particle size and size distribution? What are the disadvantages of sieving method of size analysis? And what are the different factors that affect the sieve method of analysis? What precautions you will take care while doing the sieving method? What are the advantages of using sieving method for size analysis of powdered sample? Other than this, you should be aware of what is actually sieve diameter and how do we apply that knowledge in pharmacy. You have to arrange the sieves or the sieve set for determining the particle size using sieving method. So you must be aware of the sequence in which you will be arranging the sieve set, and how will you express the size distribution pattern once you do the sieve method of analysis. So this was all about the sieving method for determining particle size and size distribution. Let's now move to the second practical, that is determination of particle size distribution using microscopic method. So as told in the previous one, for this practical as well, you may be asked what is the application of determining particle size in pharmacy and what is the meaning of the term size distribution and powder. Other than that, because microscope is involved in this particular experiment, you may be asked to define the projected diameter and what is its application in pharmacy. Other than that, you may be asked to describe the different mathematical expressions for particle size distribution. You may be asked to describe the methods for graphical presentation of particle size distribution and what is the advantage of doing that. What is the minimum size that you can measure by microscopic technique and why it is difficult to express the particle size in terms of only one diameter. What are the advantages and limitations which are associated with particle size distribution using microscopic technique? What precautions you will take care of while doing the experiment of microscopy? Other than that, you must have an idea of the term the normal distribution and log normal distribution, which is very much related to this particular experiment, and how the calibration of the stage micrometer and ocular micrometer is carried out. The You may be asked to mention how many number of particles are to be measured, so that you can analyze the particles so as to get a precise number as a mean diameter of the given set of powder or the sample of powder, right? So this was about practical number 1 and 2, which are both related to the determination of particle size as well as size distribution. Moving to the next practical. So practical number 3 is determination of bulk density, true density and porosity. So if I talk about the usual viva voce question which any teacher will be interested to ask you to check whether you understood the concept or not, is what is the meaning of derived properties? Give any two examples of derived properties. Then define the terms like granule density, void porosity, true density, total porosity, porosity and bulk density. You may be asked to write the experimental method. How will you determine the bulk density? You may be asked what are the characteristics which actually may affect the bulk density of the powder, and what are the applications of determining the bulk density. Similarly, how you determine the porosity, what are its applications. You may be asked to differentiate the terms like what is the difference between bulk density, true density. Similarly, what is the difference between void porosity and total porosity. So this is how the questions may be asked. So whenever you prepare for this particular experiment, do focus on the answer, finding the answers of such queries as well. Moving to the next part, that is experiment number 4, which is more focused on determining the angle of repose and the influence of lubricant on angle of repose. This experiment is actually focused more towards the flow properties of any powder. So the question that might be asked is, maybe definition wise they may ask you, define what do you understand by the term lubricant, glidant, angle of repose or anti-adherent, and they may ask you the significance or application type questions as well, like what is the significance of determining angle of repose, what are the applications of angle of repose, and you may be asked to write or tell the method how you determine the frictional forces in granules, and what are the attributes in a powder that may contribute to affect the angle of repose of any powder. Similarly, what is the effect of this lubricant or glidant on the angle of repose of granules, and what are the ways how you can improvise the flow, and how you will be determining that what is the optimum concentration of the glidant that can be required for a better flow powder. Okay, so this is how you can work out on these questions, try to find out, explore the answers, because they are well written in your practical notebook as well. So just go through them and try to solve these questions that I have mentioned. That will make your concepts more clear. Let's move to the next two practicals. Now, both experiment number 5 and experiment number 8, as mentioned in your syllabus, are based on viscosity determination, but the only difference is the method is different. First one, for the experiment number 5, is utilizing Ostwald viscometer, while the second one is using Brookfield viscometer. So the questions can be like, draw the diagram of Ostwald viscometer and label it. Give the pharmaceutical applications for viscosity. What are the different methods of determining viscosity? That can also be asked. And how viscosity can be affected? What are the different factors? You might be asked about the intrinsic viscosity and how you will determine it. What precautions you have to take while determining the viscosity of a liquid. Either specifically they may be asked They may ask you about Ostwald viscometer or Brookfield viscometer. Other than this, firstly and most importantly, you should understand the meaning of the term viscosity. What is its unit, that is poise. So you should have an idea what one poise is, what is the meaning of the term like coefficient of viscosity, which is very much related to it, what is the equation that is used for determining viscosity of a liquid, and you might have to explain the term. In the determination of viscosity of a liquid, equal volume of liquid and water should be taken into Ostwald viscometer. So the reason for doing that may also be asked. Similarly, what is relative viscosity? Like that, what are the other units of viscosity like millipoise? What is its meaning? Tell the formula of determining viscosity, that is eta 1, that will be rho 1 t1 by rho 2 t2 into eta 2. So this is how you'll be calculating the viscosity using Ostwald viscometer. Similarly, for Brookfield viscometer, what is the actual procedure of not only determining viscosity but also related to the spindle numbers, right? You must have the concept of spindle number very much clear in your mind. What are the different steps by which you will be determining the value of viscosity, which spindle number will have to be used for which type of liquid, and similarly how will you be able to read those readings, what will be displayed on the screen of Brookfield viscometer, what are the precautions that you have to take care of while performing that experiment. So I think this will be useful for you if you try to find the answers of these queries. Moving to the next experiments. Now, both these experiments, as per syllabus, experiment number 6 and 7 are based on suspensions or suspending agent used for determining the sedimentation volume. So how they are different? In one of the case, we are determining the effect of different suspending agent, and in the second case, with the same suspending agent, we are trying to change the concentration and study its effect. Okay, so related to that, you might be asked what is actually the meaning of suspension. At the same time, you may be asked what is a suspending agent. Then what is the meaning of the term physical stability of a suspension, that you must be aware of. And the term like degree of flocculation and sedimentation volume, both, that should be clear in your mind. Similarly, what are the two methods by which you can actually determine the physical stability of the suspension? Please note that we are not talking about the chemical stability, we are talking about the physical stability of the suspension. What is the meaning of the term coarse dispersion? What are the areas where you can apply the concept of suspension in pharmacy? And the most commonly one that may be asked on a very simpler side, you might be facing that question since your first year, that what is the meaning of flocculated state, what is the difference between flocculated and deflocculated suspension. So whenever the term suspension comes, so the examiner may ask you what are the different types of suspensions and what is the meaning of the term flocculated and deflocculated. Other than that, because you are adding the different suspending agent and studying the effect, same way if you have carried out the experiment, then they might ask you that which among the different suspending agent you find the best and why. Similarly, if you are studying the effect of concentration, different concentration, but use the single suspending agent, the question might be asked from you that which concentration you find the most appropriate and why. So you must be ready with the answers for those questions. Moving to the next experiment. So now both these experiments are actually related to the stability of a system, of a compound, and the pattern or the reaction, at what rate it actually happens, is determined. Okay, and to give it a quantitative touch, we usually determine the reaction rate constant, either it be a first order reaction or a second order reaction. So, firstly, you should understand what is the application of studying chemical kinetics in pharmacy, right? Where do you apply the same? And what is the significance of reaction rate constant? Then, the simple questions related to the terms may be asked, like what is half life, what is the rate of a reaction, what is an order of a reaction, what do you mean by first order, what do you mean by pseudo first order, what is second order. Similarly, other than the definition, you might be asked to differentiate the two terminologies or three terminologies. As an example, you might be asked to differentiate the rate of reaction and reaction rate constant. That looks similar, but that has a very altogether a different meaning. So you must be asked like that. Other than that, what is the difference between a first order reaction and a pseudo first order reaction? Similarly, what is the difference between first order and second order reaction? Other than that, the most important thing in this particular chemical kinetics is the curve that you will be getting for different reaction rates, right? For different types of reaction, for first order, zero order, what is on the abscissa, what is on the ordinate, I mean what is on the x-axis or y-axis, and which type of curve you will be getting. Similarly, other than the curve, you must be having the idea of the units of the different terms, like what will be the unit of half-life, what will be the unit of rate of reaction, what will be the unit of reaction rate constant. You might be asked to write the equation of the reaction, like for first order, say you might be asked to write the general rate expression, what is exponential rate equation, what is integral rate equation. Similarly, you may be asked to draw the graph for first order reaction and explain its nature. And if you are attempting it in the online mode or in a Google forum, you might be given three or four choices and you have to pick it up, like which graph is suitable for which type of reaction. Other than that, the typical reaction based questions may be asked, like you might have studied the acid hydrolysis of ester as an example of first order rate constant determination. Then in that case, you might be asked like why you add ice cold water to the sample of reaction mixture before you are actually proceeding for titration. Similarly, related to the experiment itself, why you are heating the reaction mixture at 60 degree for a particular time, say 20 or 30 minutes at the end of the experiment. Other than that, why you are keeping the mixtures in water bath, what is the use of that at very beginning of the experiment. So these are the basic questions that might be asked while you are actually experiencing either your synopsis or viva voce exam for your practical. I can understand you people might not have carried out all the experiments in the lab this time, particularly when there was corona pandemic, but whatever you were able to understand in the virtual mode, I hope this particular video will be very helpful for you in preparing your answers for the practical exam. So let's move to the next experiment now. This one is the very last experiment as mentioned in your syllabus. So this experiment basically focus on the stability of any compound. So how at an accelerated rate you can determine which compound will be more stable, and on the basis of that you can determine the shelf life of that particular compound. So you might be asked to define the terms, basic terms, like what is the meaning of the term shelf life, and what is the meaning of the term accelerated stability study. Similarly, what is stability indicating assay? Okay. Now, another thing is The questions may be asked related to what you have actually carried out, like why the accelerated stabilities are performed over room temperature study, why not at room temperature, why in the accelerated condition. Other than that, what are the different factors that affect the stability of any compound, how the temperature is going to affect the degradation of any compound, and if you are aware of the temperature dependence, we have an equation that is Arrhenius equation. So that equation might be asked either to be written or to be chosen among the different options that may be available on your screen. So what is the application of that Arrhenius equation? How you will be actually determining the expiry date of the product. So similar to the Arrhenius equation, you might be asked to choose or write about Arrhenius plot and how it is important in pharmacy profession. That may be related to the actual experiment that you have carried out, like the degradation study of aspirin. So how you actually carried out that, what were the precautions that you have to take care of, what is the formula of shelf life, that is T90, which is 0.105 by K. Similarly, what is the value of slope, what is the formula for T half, that is 0.693 by K. What is aspirin decomposition at temperature 60, in which compounds it usually degrades, like aspirin get converted in the salicylic acid and acetic acid. So which compound we are actually determining in the colorimetry assay, how the calibration curve will be plotted for salicylic acid. So these are the different questions that might be asked by the examiner. So I hope in this pandemic time, when you have mostly utilized the virtual platform for conduction and performance of your experiments, this video will be quite useful for you to understand the concept. I think probably by finding the answers of the questions that I have raised, you might be come across with certain new knowledge that you were not aware of before. So that will definitely help you in your higher classes for sure. Wish you a very good luck for all your exams. Thank you. Have a nice time.